Black butterfly, I'm inspired by how you soar so high. When I see you in nature, I know God is alive. It is through you I know God is real. The protection that you bring me comes from the ancestral realm. Black butterfly, we acknowledge the beauty of your wings, but don't acknowledge your time in isolation. The cocoon you had to break through in order to achieve full transformation. I know through you, change is not only inevitable, but beautiful. From a caterpillar on the ground to a chrysalis on a vine, the evolution of you is the universe's reminder of divine time. Black butterfly, your strength and beauty beyond compare. A journey we all relate to, yet a process so rare. Black butterfly, you are magic. I wish to be that free, because it is through seeing you that I am able to see reflections of me.
Hello, my name is Sparkle Williams from Los Angeles, California. I'm 45 years old, currently reside in Las Vegas, Nevada for 21 years. Yes, well, I will say my journey started in the womb. When I was born, I had a cord wrapped around my neck, and the doctors didn't think that I was going to make it at that time. After I was born, I was diagnosed with a rare condition called myasthenia gravis, and that was a journey for my parents. They took me to the doctor. I felt like I lived at the doctor's office. My eye was low. I had a weak eye. Then my dad took me off of the medication, and he just said that he prayed, and my eye lifted. And I haven't experienced any symptoms from that condition. But I truly believe that the Lord has prepared me for everything that has gone on in my life. At an early age, I was molested. Many years later, I was in college, and we had an assignment at that time, and I was 19 years old, and the assignment was to do a review on A Time to Kill. It was really, really challenging for a lot of the young ladies in our class, and it seemed like a lot of us experienced molestation and were battling that and hadn't dealt with it. So fast forward, that assignment was wiped out because of the trauma that a lot of us young ladies had experienced. When I relocated here to Las Vegas after I graduated from college, it was 2003, I was introduced to Victory Missionary Baptist Church. And at that time, Pastor Fowler, late Pastor Fowler, Robert Fowler Sr., he gave me counseling and walked me through the trauma that I had experienced.
I am Erica Hector Vital Lazar. I was born in Athens, Georgia, raised in Virginia. I am forever a Southerner in sensibility. I've been here 27 years in Las Vegas. I am a professor. I'm a mother. I am someone who loves community. I hope I'm a good friend. I'm a sister. I'm an editor. I'm a writer. I'm an artist, a curator. the beginning of my journey, even as I list all of those aspects of my identity, I can say that most of those started very young. I think, as my mother tells the story, and as I also remember, I began reading at 3, and I think my imaginative life sort of flows from that reading experience. I've always loved being around children, and I think that still even follows with my profession as a teacher, a professor, an educator. So I can say I think I probably came to the planet with this desire to be among folks, even though I am an introvert by nature as well. So I truly believe that, yes, you come here with those first flowerings, but it's up to your environment to a great degree to continue to water those aspects of yourself that make it possible for you to become what you're becoming.
My name's Katrina McKenna. I am 52 years old. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and I am a mom, a soon-to-be grandma for the first time, a sister, and a homie. I think the beginning part of my life was kind of undefiable at the time because my mom was killed when I was a year and 11 months old, so it was only my dad. And I really didn't have any sense of identity at the time because I didn't have a lot of family or anything, and not a lot of people like looked like me or that I could identify with. I didn't have really much of family or sense of family. I think pretty much early on in meeting more of the women in my family and getting to know them and just where my roots originate from is in New Orleans. Both my mother and father were born and raised in New Orleans, and I got more of a sense of identity about myself, and even more so as a woman, having relationships with these women and who brought me up and helped raise me in my mother's absence, I would say.
So my name is Tanya. Folks in my periphery today call me Dr. Tanya Walls. My icon name is Abana Pena. I was born and raised in Oakland, California, in the middle of a beautiful Black and brown community that nurtured me with love, showed me what Black joy and Black brilliance looks like, and helped develop me into the unapologetic Black woman that I am today. So while there's no one significant moment in my early life that defines my identity, I can say being born in Oakland, California, in the cradle of the Black Panther movement, a community that was strong about what it meant to be Black and what Black love and Black brilliance and Black joy and Black resistance looked like really shaped me. I was born to a mother who was strong, passionate, knew that love wasn't what wealth wasn't defined by money, but instead was defined by love. I was nurtured by uncles and aunts and grandparents who showed me what the village meant and what it meant to embrace a little girl like me and to love on her, to let her express herself, to let her be curious about the world, to let her ask questions, to let her laugh and be joyful. And most important of all, not to be defined by what the world would want her to believe about herself, but to impart on her that she would be and become anything she wanted. So if I'm to think of myself in terms of an egg and coming into my identity and thinking about how I want to, what my aspirations are for my future, I think back to just the models that were put before me. And again, a lot of times we hear about Black people and Black women, and we hear about the negatives. And I choose not to narrate my story through forces of trauma, but instead to narrate it through the beauty that I saw.
My name is Matisha Suda. I am 53 years of age. I have lived in Las Vegas the past 13 years. I am originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm a Midwest girl. And I am a realtor, a real estate investor, and I also own a women's wellness line that focuses on women going through menopause. This may not be as pleasant as one may want, but me being molested starting at the age of 3 years old. That was a very pivotal moment for me because it went on until I was 13 years of age. And that put me in extreme survival mode until I told my mother at the age of 13. And then I realized after I told her, nothing was really being done about it. My stepfather was allowed to stay in the home and my mother continued to have more children with him. I didn't really feel a sense of identity when I was growing up because I had my brothers and sisters that were from my stepfather and my mother, but I always felt like the other. So I always felt like I was the outsider. And because of that, I just tried to excel at everything else, school, sports, etc. I had a hard time with religion because my parents were very religious, yet all of these horrible, horrific things were happening to me behind the scenes. Like my childhood was a hodgepodge of hypocrisy. And my stepfather, who was the one who was doing the molesting, was very looked up to in the Jehovah's Witness community. And just living those two existences was very challenging for me. And it was hard to separate. And, it was like living an artificial life. I do not like when Black women are referred to as strong or resilient, but I had to be that. And I learned to survive. And at a very early age, I unknowingly learned how to create my own existence. And I learned that I was the captain of my ship. And regardless of my circumstances, I could become anything that I wanted to be.
I think those barriers that existed in my early phase of development, going into my early teens, and becoming accelerated possibly in my later teens, was that as a daughter of the South, I often found myself in spaces where I was one of few or the only one, let's say in certain classroom settings or certain settings, museum settings, dance class, and being the only one as a Black girl trying to become a woman can often be challenging. So I think in that period, being a teenager, being very quiet, being in that Southern upbringing, of remaining quiet and ladylike always, it was very easy to be pushed to the back, right? The back of the classroom, the back of being considered for scholarships, the back of being considered for continued access to greater resources when it was so apparent that I was hungry, very curious to know more. So you always find a way, particularly I think as a Black girl, you start to understand early that you have to get what you need, sometimes through means that aren't traditional. And often you have to enlist the aid of other Black women and girls to do so.
Well, as a teenager, I was a teenage mom, but I didn't want to be a statistic. I was 17 years old, so I'm looking at myself as a 17-year-old Black single mother, but I didn't want to be a statistic or that just to be my, it was just my circumstance at the time. And having my son, I turned 18 4 days later, and that was definitely a challenge. And not, first of all, not having a mom, but then in not knowing how to be one, I guess, or I just knew I was going to do whatever it took, and whatever that meant at the time, I didn't know, but you know, it just was natural. It was just something that came natural, and I didn't see it as, I mean, it was in the beginning, it was a challenge, but I just took the steps I felt of it being more so love than labor. So, well, I felt definitely being vulnerable as a mother, now a mother of two. I had my second son 4 years after, and I felt very vulnerable, very unexperienced, but yet again, optimistic, because it was, I mean, a challenge, a welcoming challenge that I felt I shed that first layer of not knowing, what I was doing, to knowing a little bit more, but more so, and again, like I said, in shedding the, I guess, I don't know how I want to say, more like, I think looking more into what I could contribute to my boys in their lives at the time, and how and what, or just being a positive and wanting to be a positive influence and force, what I'm saying, in their life, and seeing what what I contributed.
Yeah, so growing up, it was the old feeling of neighborhood. All of my aunties, my grandparents, we all stayed on the same block around the corner from each other, my maternal family. So I grew up with my siblings and my cousins, and it was just wonderful. It was just living. My parents were on drugs, and my grandparents and my family, they uh, were a part of molding me. And it was such a blessing to have extended family to make me who I am today. And even to see what I saw with growing up in a substance abuse home. It made me see that that's not the life that I wanted to live, and that I wanted to do something greater than myself, and be something better, and to be a role model.
When I was 15 years old, I had the opportunity to go to Italy. I did very well in school, and I had to fight to do that, because at first I wasn't allowed to go, but then I just decided that I was going to go and face the repercussions later. And that trip changed my life, because as a young Black woman, growing up in the hood in Milwaukee, I grew up on 37th and Lloyd, which is the hood. And seeing that the world was so big, and that there were people who were, doing so many different things, and eating different foods, and just the architecture, and just the whole essence of traveling, that really inspired my global travel bug that I still have at 53. And that experience right there was the experience that really got into my mind, into my consciousness and my subconsciousness, that I could create what I wanted for my future, and that the world wasn't so bad and so small.
Yeah, so, that caterpillar stage where you feel like you're shedding the layers of yourself and a little vulnerable, I think happened for me when I moved from high school to college. And so in my family, with my mother, it was as simple as this. When you're 18, you're grown. You either go into work, you go into the military, or you create a path for yourself. But whatever it is, you grown. Did my job, I'm done. Deuces. And so while I didn't understand that, I understood it. And so my mom dropped me off at UCLA. And she gave me $200. And she said, I love you. And
you are here because of the folks who poured into you, make them proud, but most important, make you proud. And she left, and I was grown. And so I had to figure out how to get through college. I had to figure out how to make those decisions for myself, while there. And it was the first time that I wasn't with my village. And I also was in a PWI, predominantly white university, that is in one of the richest zip codes in the country. And so I knew very quickly that folks there didn't have the experiences I had growing up. And as a Black woman on that campus, there were a lot of folks who believed we shouldn't have been there, that we didn't earn it. Never mind that my SAT was never mind that I was the top of my class, never mind that I'm brilliant and that I probably beat every other mediocre white guy who got into the university. But they didn't believe we were there. And so that was another transformative moment for me, in realizing, okay, I have to be an adult. I have to learn how to make decisions, and I also have to navigate a space where they don't see you. And if they see you, they don't see you like you see you. And so I found my peeps. I took everything my community gave me. I took the spiritual grounding that they gave me. I found my peeps and folks who were resistant. At that time, it was apartheid. And so I became an activist on campus. I pledged Delta Sigma Theta. And so I knew the import of having other Black women who were on a trajectory to something bigger than themselves for the community. And so they became my sisters and my grounding, and I just rebuilt a village there.
Speaking truthfully, I would say my isolation period in truth was just my own self-discovery and knowing I'm not only a Black woman, I'm a lesbian woman, and having to shield that, or not, and not so much even, well, shielding it at the time, especially from my African American Southern father, who was not having it at all, and how I could share that with him as well as my children, who I didn't know if that was going to be accepted. I knew it wasn't of my family. I knew it wasn't, of most of my friends. But so it was definitely many moments of isolation where I felt I didn't live my truth.
When I was in college, I had to grow up very fast. I was 20 years old, sophomore year of college, and I got custody of my baby sister, who was a freshman in high school. So I became a mom very early, and she molded me and made me grow up. Even though I had a wonderful college years and partied and became a member of Old Sweet Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, I was a mom. And she just made me grow up. And then my middle sister came to college, and all three of us were there. I was the first to go to college, and all three of us was in Ohio. And I'm big sis, we're doing our thing. So that was a pivotal moment in my life. And through those years, we lost our brother. We're 11 months apart. He was 21 years old and got murdered in Los Angeles, California. And my sisters, we were there together.
When I told my mother that I was being molested by my stepfather, that was a very vulnerable moment because I really had the confidence in my mother that she was going to protect me, that she was going to kick him out, and she was going to continue, raising me, and I was going to do all the things with my mother and my brothers and sisters. But when the opposite happened, that was very heartbreaking to me. I wasn't allowed to wear pajamas. I had to be fully dressed when I was at home. It was like she kind of put the blame on me. And, she chose her husband over her daughter. And that left me very vulnerable because then my brothers and sisters knew. And then I really began feeling like more of an outsider. So I really didn't feel like I had a strong family base. And I just knew at that moment, when I told her at 13 years of age, that I knew I just had to survive.
So a pivotal time in my life, I can think of two. The first was on UCLA's campus. I was kind of wilding out my third and fourth year, going to parties, not necessarily focusing on my studies. And I was also booed up with my now partner, who I've been with for 33 years. And although we knew we wanted to be together, we didn't necessarily make the best choices at the time. And so I got pregnant. And my family was devastated. I don't know why, though, because I'm still me. And they just knew I was going to drop out of school. And that was never a thought for me. And so my partner and I, we decided, okay, well, now it's time for us to shift. And I knew it was time to shift because the universe had gifted me with a child who I was going to have to shape. And so that just gave me my focus back. And so that put me back on my grind. And we decided everything that we were doing was for this child we was going to bring into the world. And so that was a time when I really had to go back. They say raise a child up in the way you need them to go, and they'll never depart from it. And I had taken a little detour, but it was a time when I said, okay, I need to come back to what I know. And so I got my focus, and I remembered my purpose, and together with my partner, we decided that our child and our family and our community was what we were going to build together. And then a second time was moving to Las Vegas. So I was born and raised in Oakland, and living in Las Vegas was very different than living in Oakland for me, and especially as an educator. It was another moment in my life where I realized that I was in a community where Black folks weren't the majority, which is very different from Oakland. And then I see the world through a Black racial lens, and within an African diasporic mindset. And so speaking out about racism and, capitalism and colonialism is something that I was used to in my community. And here, when I moved here, that wasn't necessarily done the same way. And so I received a lot of, how do I describe it? Just people didn't understand who I was and how I was navigating the space. And within the school district, when I challenged folks, I was retaliated against. And so I had to make the difficult decision to leave the district, not to leave education, but to leave the district so that I could continue to speak out and do the work of supporting Black children in the way that I was used to.
For my chrysalis stage, yes, it is necessary that you go inward. That's part of the natural order of things. Again, that is a beautiful metaphor that you've drawn as we look at the lifespan of the butterfly. So yes, I was often isolated. In that isolation, I was able to write. In that isolation, I was able to go on and not only complete college fairly quickly and at a young age, but to then go to graduate school, do the work that I needed to do there. It demanded that I go inside, that we sort of break down what came before and build up what's coming next in that stage. So I will say yes, over the course of my education was very much the chrysalis stage. Ironically, I find myself reapproaching that stage. Even as I'm very public facing, I do a lot of work with my community, particularly with my nonprofit, particularly with being a professor. I still search and need that time to go back in and to develop other parts of myself, particularly as a writer, particularly as an artist. So it's necessary, even as you develop your full wingspan, it is sometimes necessary that you go back into your chrysalis so that you can become more for yourself.
So my metamorphosis from the womb, being birthed to this beautiful butterfly, just going through the stages of life to be this beautiful person that I am today. I'll say between Proverbs 31 and Tupac, it's me. It's me. But I have blossomed. I have set the tone to go to college. I'll back up from being raised through everything that I've been through, having a cord wrapped around my neck, turning blue, not thinking that I was going to make it, to myasthenia gravis and kids picking on me and not knowing how I was going to overcome that, being on medications and seeing the doctors every week and being molested by a relative at the age of 10 and going through that trauma, which I still deal with today. Going off to college, being the first to go to a HBCU college, and my sisters following in my footsteps. And it has affected some of us. But for me, I am resilient. And I have not let the world impact what could have taken me out. This world that we live in has tried to take me out. And I just have to think of where I've come from, that I can't let that happen. I have daughters, I have sons and sisters, nieces, biological nieces, nieces that's not biological, and I am their voice. I am whose shoulders I want them to stand on. And even though I go through a lot, I have to be strong and show them that you can overcome anything that comes your way. And again, if I would look like what I've been through, even today, even last year, things that I've gone through, it could have wiped me out. But God said, no, you have favor. You are my child. You're not going to go out like this. And I sit here today as a witness of the graces and the mercies that the Lord has given me to keep going until He calls me home. I have a mission. I would have never known that my Soror Aaliyah was going to ask me to sit before you and talk about where I've come from. So I still have some things to do for other women, for young ladies, for men, for mothers, whatever it looks like. I have been through it. And I'm here to tell you that you can get through anything because God is good.
I'm not in anywhere complete in becoming. So that metamorphosis is still ongoing. I'm still changing. I think every morning when I wake and I know that there's another thing that I want to pursue. There's another story I want to write. There's another novel I want to read. There's another film I want to perhaps direct or edit. There's a podcast. I mean, so there's an ever-flowing metamorphosis. I think when you complete that change, you're in trouble. I think that the mission for us as we come here to this planet is to continue to shift, to grow, to change. Metamorphosis is never complete. So yes, my metamorphosis is to understand, though I'm ever in awe of the life I'm living, I truly am. So metamorphosis is never complete, it's continuing.
So when I look back on my entire life cycle and think about what my legacy will be, I just keep coming back to the village and the community. I started as a little Black girl who was expressive, who asked questions, who laughed, who loved the people who loved her, and who understood the power that Black people bring to the world and the country. And today, I get to do that work as passion work, as life work. I get to work with Black little girls who are expressive and brilliant and who have questions and who are experiencing things and learning how to navigate the world. And I get to learn and grow from them. I get to mentor them. I get to pour into them. I get to open pathways for them. And I get to watch them become their beautiful selves. And so I would hope that that's my legacy, which is also our purpose. You heard me talk about Sankofa earlier, and that is what being liberated and free and understanding purpose is in life, is remembering where you came from, standing on the bridges that were built for you, taking that baton and carrying it as far as you can. And so I had to learn that even if I'm not in the classroom, it doesn't mean I can't be a teacher, and that I can continue to ask questions and learn. But most importantly, my job is to pour into Black girls, little Black girls, who are growing up in the same kind of communities that I grew up in, but who may not have had the privilege of having that experience narrated through a positive lens, and to remind them that they are not trauma and they are not their traumas, and that they can be and do anything they set their mind to, as long as they recognize the wealth of what they have as Black girls becoming women.
My metamorphosis was very intentional because it's like I could feel the energy inside of me that was being encapsulated, like being manipulated into trying to be something that it wasn't. And also in hindsight, I do believe that my mother saw me and who I was. And because of her own trauma that was unhealed, she couldn't nurture what was inside of me. She couldn't allow that to cultivate and grow. So I had to do a lot of forgiving, a lot of self-reflection. And in spite of all of that, I still love my mother because she's the portal through which I chose to come. And I had to learn the lessons that I have learned in order to become the woman that I am today. And I'm extremely proud of the woman that I am.
For me, living my truth was the most important, and being true to who I was, how I was, not necessarily how I was perceived by other people or what they thought of me, their thoughts or, things or ideas about me, but who I knew I was, internally, externally, and what I, contributed as well. And I mean, just more so how I, what I thought, like I said, about me. But I think that's just, I mean, where I think for me, I just branched out from that and not being so consumed with other people's perception of me. And because it wasn't authentic. And I feel I couldn't move or operate how I know I could. I know I have a personality. I know I have a sense of humor, a really great heart, and it's hard to, you know, I mean, the only reason I say that and what makes me emotional about it is as a mother, I wouldn't feel right in teaching my children how to identify with how and who they are if I wasn't who and how I really was, you know? Because I know I'm truly blessed with four phenomenal children. I mean, absolutely. I mean, who have exceeded and surpassed any expectation I had. So, I mean, it's like happy tears. But, so yeah. I think honestly, I feel I'm still growing. I feel I'm still learning, still striving to learn and grow. I hope that I leave an indelible mark, on my kids, my soon-to-be granddaughter. But I feel I haven't like fully embraced it all, came into it all. I think, like I said, I feel I'm still a work in progress.
You know, most people say you don't have a legacy unless you have children. But I do have children. I have children in the community that I have loved on, helped, assisted, guided. I have nieces that I have inherited. And I hope what they have all learned from me is that you can be whoever you want to be in spite of your situation. And your situation does not determine your destination. It's all internal. Everything that you need is already in you.
Is I just think as women, especially us, as especially young minority, young black girls at any age, especially young, and being such, at such an impressionable age, I just don't ever think we ever give ourselves grace and forgiveness, ourselves of any transgressions or anything, any mistakes we made. It's like, yeah, we make mistakes and make them because I think experience is one of our greatest teachers. And as long as we're learning, from that, not repeating the same mistakes, but, accepting it, learning from it and moving on. But just allowing ourselves to be and trusting that intuition that we have for a reason, that it's so much, I feel, to us, because we just have so much, I feel, to offer, and to give, as well as to give back.
The advice that I would give to young Black girls navigating their experiences is similar to what I learned. Be you. Be yourself. Embrace who you are. Embrace all of who you are. Embrace your strengths. Understand that your superpower is in your melanin. It's in your blackness. It's in your community. It's in your experiences because of those things. And when people try to convince you otherwise, remember they're only doing it because they see your power. I would tell Black girls to ask questions, to be curious, to cultivate their imaginations. Because of their gifts, they see the world in a way that no other group of people can see. And it is their imagination and their creativity and their brilliance that has powered the world. I would tell them to remember that you are Alpha and Omega. The world doesn't want you to know it, but you are the only human on the face of the earth from which all other people could possibly have ever come from, which makes you unique.
The advice that I would give Black women, girls, and those of gender expansiveness is that as we navigate and transform, we understand that those around us are doing the same. And oftentimes our transformation lies in helping someone else transform, or it lies in, becoming someone who is helped by another's transformation. So I think my answer to that question would be yes, to be involved, to be engaged in and passionate about what you will do next. Be laser focused on becoming that ideal version of yourself, and also be aware of the ways that you can help others to become that ideal. I think much of what I do is heavily influenced by two women, Paul Marshall, the novelist, who helped me get into graduate school by reading my work and saying, I've got you. I owe my professional life to her. Marita Golden, another novelist, essayist, who along my journey has said, this is the opportunity for you. Try this, apply here, do this thing. I've needed those women, and what's more, I've come to understand that I also need to be those women, and I look out for ways and opportunities to do just that. When I see sisters around me trying to transform, making that next step, perhaps not even being aware that they're reaching for that moment to come out of their chrysalis and spread their wings, I hope to aid them in that, to point them to that next resource, to become for them what other women have been for me.
Be you. You don't have to be perfect, but be you. At 45 years old, I'm still a work in progress. I still make mistakes. I'm not going to say that I'm holier than thou, because I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. But I am still here today. You're going to make mistakes until the Lord calls you home. But be your authentic self. Find a safe space. Find your sister girls that you can talk to. I've been blessed that I have friends that I still talk to from high school through college. Get those group of ladies that you can be a blessing to. If you have some knowledge, share it. I get together every other month with my girlfriends, and we sit down, we talk. We're teachers, we're social workers, we're correction officers, all different fields. And we come together just to love on each other, to encourage each other. We're mothers, we're wives. Find who you are. And don't be apologetic about who you are. But remember to keep God first. Love yourself and be you, boo. Be you. Love you. Love you more than you love anybody else. Practice self-care. Because if you're not well, you can't take care of nobody else. And I leave you with that. Love yourself. Take care of you.
Earth to ground to the sky. I watch you pass right before my eyes. Earth to ground to the sky. I watch you pass right before my eyes. Take up the sky, take up the sky. I wanna see how far you can go. Take up the sky, take up the sky. I wanna see how far you can go. You belong to something more than you. I will go with you. I will grow with you. You belong to something more than you. I will go with you. I will grow with you. Take up the sky, take up the sky. I wanna see how far you can go. Take up the sky, take up the sky. I wanna see how far you can go. I will grow with you. I will go with you. I will grow with you. I will go, I will go, I will go with you. I will grow with you. I will go with you. I will go, I will go. Take on the sky, take up the sky. I wanna see how far you can go.